If anybody wants to talk about that, we can. Okay. Before we move to this, I want to state just one other thing on the assessments. What we have done in the early phases of assessments. CATS is a test that has been overloaded with expectations. We had originally a pretty simple goal for CATS. That was institutional accountability. As we moved forward, we started saying, well, can we do a little more with this in terms of diagnosing kids? Can we do something here that would allow us to make some adjustments in instructional design? And the more you add on to a state assessment system, the more difficult it becomes to use that assessment for the kind of accountability purposes we need. That's why I'm kind of excited that you all are stepping back and thinking about what would a new assessment system look like. And I will tell you that I think it ought to be an assessment system that doesn't rely on a single instrument to give you all the results. You still need institutional accountability, but what we need more than anything else right now are assessments that drive instruction in positive directions in our classrooms. Because what we've done by not replacing or supplementing the high stakes accountability system, CATS, is that teachers who don't have the expertise and knowledge, many of them, and many administrators, building level principals, who want to do well on that test, do some really lousy things, destructive things. And those destructive things are teaching to items, stopping the instructional process to coach kids for 3 weeks before the test, trying to guess the sequence of the testing programs. We've got to change all of that. So I think the new assessment system has to be a blending of much better in-classroom, diagnostic, and formative assessment procedures, combined with district capacity to intervene and monitor those procedures as they move ahead, much more sophisticated diagnostic tools for students who are ahead of the teaching curve and need to move on, and students who are developmentally behind. But if teachers don't have those kinds of tools in their hands, they're going to revert back to very poor practice. So the new assessment is not a new test. The new assessment is an assessment system that includes formative judgment on the part of teachers, formative assessments as the instructional process goes forward, intermediate checkpoints by districts, and then the summative assessment. I've come to the conclusion that in my best of worlds, we might even make summative judgments out of formative assessments. Wouldn't that be intriguing to begin to think about? That is, don't divert the formative assessments to high stakes at this point, but there could be products coming out of classroom work and adjudication by teachers that could be the products that you use to make judgments about whether schools are making progress or not. At least a combined effort along those lines might be intriguing to think about. All right, education workforce. I think the big issue here is a complete redesign. We have a system in place that was built on the industrial model that assumed everybody would be doing the same task, that assumed that you could put in the heads of certain individuals certain knowledge, and that they could be upgraded. It is front-loaded heavily, more than it is within the classroom, and it treats everyone in that system exactly the same. It is built on a model where all the widgets are together, that is, a teacher and 25 or 30 kids in a classroom, all doing the same repetitive activity. There's no differentiation of role and responsibility in that system in terms of rewards and recognition. I'm going to say some things. I lost this one, what, Helen, twice we lost this one? When I was here, and you may lose it again. But the issue here is, I don't see how we can move forward unless we begin to differentiate roles and responsibilities for our educators in our schools. I know that's controversial. I know there are lots of concerns about how that might be played out. But I think holding on to the current system where you don't have master teachers on site, in classrooms, working with beginning teachers and teachers who are struggling, where you don't have differentiating responsibilities for teachers who have different expertise and knowledge and skills, where you don't have this kind of reward and recognition structure for moving through the system, will cause us not to be successful in the future. I think it is one of the major impediments to holding us back. So what does that mean?